Prior to rolling out my dough and starting to cut up the pieces, I've laid out a silicone rolling mat, which I got recently, and it does a really decent job. And I have floured it, and I've floured my rolling pin because I've made this type of recipe before. I know it needs a lot of flour, so what I'm going to do is keep a custard cup or a small bowl filled with flour in case I need it, instead of having to, dip into the flour bag constantly. So I've laid out a number of different cutters. What I was thinking of was, instead of the traditional hamantashen that are cut into circles and then folded into a triangular shape, I was thinking maybe I would cut it into a square and then fold up each of the opposing ends and make it into a diamond. Then you could see the filling peeking out the sides. And I was thinking about making different sizes of those. And then if there was any extra dough at the end, I would just cut out some different shaped stars and either put a little bit of the filling in the middle of the star or just have them plain. Wow, I just took the dough out of the plastic bag that I had been storing it in when it was in the refrigerator, and it was just overwhelmingly lemony. It was just so delightful, and then this undertone of coconut. Remember that egg yolk that we were supposed to set aside yesterday? Well, the recipe says to mix it, actually I beat it up with a little whisk, with a tablespoon of water. And this is going to be used to glue the sides of the cookies together so that they stick. The dough turned out to be a little bit drier than I would have liked, so I wet my hands several times and kneaded the dough and let it rest before rolling it out again. So now I've cut out these squares. Actually, they're in a diamond shape now, but I'm going to use the egg yolk and water mixture and then brush the edges before I plop some of the wonderful fillings in there, and then fold them up into lovely shapes. I ran into a little bit of trouble with the dough because every time I tried to fold it, it would break. So instead of making myself crazy, you can see it right here, instead of making myself crazy, I decided to just make some cutout stars and put a little bit of the filling in the middle. So now I'm going to put this first batch in the oven and see how it does. In the meantime, I'm going to try to noodle around with the dough a little bit, make it a little bit more flexible, and cut out some new shapes, see how it goes. The recipe says to bake for 13 minutes at 375 degrees. We're at about, probably about 9 minutes, and at 350 degrees because we're using agave nectar. And I can see already that the tips are turning quite brown, so I'm going to leave it in for just maybe about 2 more minutes and then take them out. Well, the first batch are out of the oven and they're cooling, and as you can see, the cracks are still cracks, and well, that's going to go to Mom and Dave. So let's see. As you can see, the dough beat me at its own game again, and this time I'm going to do the plum filling on the stars. So they still look kind of pretty. Here are the finished cookies. There are approximately 75 of the smaller stars and about 15, 16 of the larger stars. Now my only challenge is to figure out how I'm going to pack them up so that the filling on top doesn't stick to the bottom of the next